If you're looking for a 13-inch ultrabook-like laptop, the Lenovo 500S, that's this here, in red and in black, might be for you. We've done a full review of this. The reviews are up on the website now, notebookcheck.net, notebookcheck.com. It's scored 82%. 82% is in the good range. It's not very high-end in this sort of 13-inch mainstream class. It's not a multimedia laptop. There's no external graphics card inside, additional graphics card inside. There's no DVD drive as well. It's also a little bit home focus, and you'll see why in a minute when I talk about screen brightness and battery life as well. There is a backlight though. There's a hybrid hard drive in here, half a terabyte, 8 gigs of RAM in this version. There is a 4 gig RAM version and a Core i5 full-fat Skylake processor, AC Wi-Fi, and what was the other thing I wanted to mention? A keyboard backlight. That was it. There's the keyboard backlight here. Let's take a look at the detailed specs here. I'll just take you through a bit more detail. It's a 1920 by 1080 panel, full HD, matte screen as well, so that's quite nice. And it's IPS, so that's a really nice viewing angle on the screen. As I said, we've got Skylake Core i5 there, which is going to give you enough for some really good office work, maybe some high definition video editing as well. And we'll talk about throttling later on in the video. Only a 35 watt hour battery inside. That's not that brilliant for this class of device, especially when it weighs 1.5 kilograms. So it's not an ultralight and it's not an ultra mobile device in terms of battery life. Full battery life details at the end of the video. Microsoft Windows on here, no touch, and the casing's quite nice. It looks nice with this red here. There's a couple of little edges here I found that a little bit scratchy. There's a metal surround to the keyboard. And let's just have a look at that keyboard. If I quickly go to Notepad, I had a test with this before, and this is a classic, very low throw Lenovo Ideapad type keyboard. And I personally don't like it that much. This is an Ideapad keyboard. It is quite accurate. The keys are well defined. There's a good color contrast on the keycaps, and that backlight's really going to help as well. Touchpad is big and it's nice and silky smooth, but there's a integrated touch buttons on the bottom left, on the bottom right, which again I don't feel a high-end, certainly good quality, but not high-end quality. Of course, this isn't branded ThinkPad, so you wouldn't expect the top quality keyboard on this. So for short report writing, blogging, certainly emails and social media, absolutely no problem at all. And if you're video editing as well, that should be fine for you, certainly with a full HD screen and the touchpad being fairly accurate. Going to give you a quick look at the ports now. There's the classic Lenovo power port, USB 3. We've got a full-size SD card slot, again helping video editors. And there's your headset port there. Let's flip it around, and you've got HDMI, gigabit Ethernet port there, and a couple of USB 3 ports. There's also a reset button here, which takes you into BIOS and recovery settings. So a reasonable set of ports. On the underside, if you take a look at that, you'll see there's no access panel for battery and no removable battery as well. So you probably would be able to get those screws off there and get access to the hard drive. And I believe there's just a single bank of memory, single DDR3 slot, and it's single channel memory as well. So, but I'm not sure about that. I'm pretty sure you will be able to get the back off, but it's obviously not designed for that. There's a couple of speaker ports here, and the speakers sound actually really, really nice. There's a good level of volume and a good level of dynamics to the sound as well. So for background audio while you're working, actually not too bad at all. Just a quick word on the memory card reader. It's fairly low speed, maximum 24 megabytes per second in our test. Some of the high-speed card readers are getting up to 100 megabytes per second, but this one's fairly low speed at 25 megabytes per second. So if you're transferring big HD files, it might take a while. I mentioned that this is going to be basically a home or indoor-based device earlier on in the review, and here are the brightness scores for the screen. 219, not good. It is an indoor device. Using it here, absolutely perfect. We're on, what level brightness are we on? Yeah, we were on full brightness there, and I would probably need 60 to 80% for an indoor working, reasonable brightness. Obviously further you get into an ambient light level that's fairly low. For example, a cabin in a flight, then you can take that down a bit. But that is a nice screen, but the brightness is just not there. The color accuracy 4.95, grayscale accuracy 3.45. We're looking for 5 and below in those figures, so those figures are not too bad. And but they won't compete with some of the very high-end screens that are getting color accuracies with a delta of 2 or less. Again, it doesn't cover a lot of the color space as well, but I think for average indoor usage, for office use, for home usage, for student usage, that screen is actually really quite nice. We've picked out a number of comparable devices for you in our full review, and there on the table you can see the screen test values for a number of devices, including the previous Lenovo U3170, which had a slightly higher brightness. There's a comparison table of the devices we've picked out in this category that also have the 6200U CPU inside, and you'll see there's absolutely no difference between all of them. We're talking plus minus 6 to 7% in terms of performance. It all boils down to throttling, and the good thing about this device is it's also staying quite cool and it's not throttling. So there's a nice bit of thermal engineering here which allows you to get more out of that CPU over time than on some devices that throttle down. PC Mark score 3767 is quite good, and that's due to the hybrid SSD hard drive. 500 gigs of hard drive, and there's an 8 gig cache in there, which really helps speed up the first part of the transfer and small transfers. It also, over time, does or supposed to learn about which apps you use and put those into cache as well. Can't tell you about any of that speed up performance, but certainly in using the device, it didn't feel like a classic hard drive based Windows laptop. And there are the Crystal Dismark scores. There you'll see sequential reads, classic hard drive 108, 4K reads, classic hard drive 0.48, 3.4 for the 4K writes. But let me just take you to the HD tune and the burst rate figure here of 140.4 megabytes per second, which gives you an idea of how the short-term performance is on this SSD hybrid cached hard drive. The same applies to 3D scores here. We've got the Intel HD 520 graphics inside. The scores across the board here are very much the same as other comparable devices. Maximum difference we're seeing is on devices that have a discrete graphics card. The Lenovo U3170 down the bottom there, for example, getting in at 51% faster, and with the GeForce 940, the Acer Aspire E5473G, twice as fast. So as far as built-in graphics goes, it's going to give you what you expect, and that is, in terms of gaming, low-end gaming, older games at very low settings, and in fact maybe some even at low settings won't give you a very smooth performance. BioShock Infinite will give you 37. That's really kind of on the limit for a really smooth gameplay experience. Dirt Rally 2015 game at low settings, 72.4. If you're looking for a gaming machine, you really need to look at something with a 940M, preferably a 960, GTX 960 to give you sort of medium settings and a little bit sort of barrier-free gaming. So this really not a gaming device. But don't forget that there's an hardware video encoder and decoder inside, which can help. It's called Intel QuickSync, and it can help with the speed up of decoding, or making that more efficient, and encoding videos. So if you're transferring videos from one format to another, or doing some HD video editing, this should be absolutely fine for some medium quality. I'm talking about 2 or 3 timelines, some fades, some titles, on a product like Cyberlink PowerDirector 14, for example, which is the one that I use. This should be fine for full HD editing. I mentioned the noise, I mentioned the temperature, really no problems there. There's the temperature graph. Maximum 39.1, absolutely no worries there. Noise only down up to 41.3 dBA. Don't worry about that, that's absolutely fine. I mentioned the speakers, they were good as well. Let's get to battery life, because we've only got a 35-watt battery in here. And when I saw on the side of the box here, well, I don't know where it is, 2-cell battery, I was a little bit worried that this might be really cheap on the battery. 35 watt hours isn't too bad. It's a little bit more than I expected, but it is, if we think of 7 years ago. That's about what the basic netbooks had, 30 watt hour batteries. So what are we getting in terms of battery life? Well, Wi-Fi serving 5 hours 1 minute. That's actually not bad for that capacity of battery. But it's a 1.5 kilogram device, and there are some devices out there which will bring you a bigger capacity battery. If you're looking for something ultra mobile, the Surface Pro 4 with a 40 watt hour battery comes in at, well, just over half the weight of this complete package. It's tablet only. You'll need to add the keyboard, of course, but that's just an example of something that was a little bit more ultra mobile focused with a higher capacity battery in per kilo. Video playback 5 hours 11 minutes, and that's at 150 nits, remember. So that is a low indoor setting, a low ambient brightness setting. Maybe on a flight you'll get a little bit more towards 6 hours if you turn the backlight down, but that's a reasonable quality screen, and it would be quite a nice video experience as well. Under load, only 1 hour 21 minutes. Well, that is typical for these devices. In fact, if we go from the most efficient of ultrabooks up to gaming laptops, it tends to be that you only ever get 1 to 2 hours out of a laptop once you really push it hard. And it's the same with this, 1 hour 20 minutes under full load. So we seem to be looking at quite a good all-rounder. I quite like this. I would have liked a slightly better keyboard. Touchpad, battery life wouldn't worry me too much, and in fact that screen brightness wouldn't worry me too much because I tend to be using my devices indoors. If you're on the train all the time, maybe sitting next to the window, that's going to be a big problem, but I like the matte screen, I like the color accuracy and the contrast acceptable there. I'd also like to open it up and see if I could drop an SSD in there. That could really make this this thing shine, and maybe 16 gigs of RAM if you're into that sort of thing. Now I want to give you the pros and cons based on our full review at Notebook Check. If you've just skipped to this section, welcome, and don't forget to give a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the videos. As you can see behind me, there's a Galaxy S7. We've got an Asus Republic of Gamer device here, and the Acer V15 Nitro Black Edition, so I'm going to look forward to testing those over the next few days. On to the pros and cons. We've talked about the good build quality here, and it's quite stable. There's not too much flopping around on the screen there, and the input devices. It's a matter of taste, really. There is a good quality mechanics. It's just slightly towards the soft touch keyboard, I think. The port selection is reasonable. We didn't observe any PWN on the screen. We have an IPS reasonable quality matte screen here as well, so that's an advantage. It stays cool, there's no throttling under load, and the speakers are good. AC Wi-Fi is only single channel. I've got 433 megahertz connectivity here in a AC Wi-Fi 866 environment, so it's only single channel AC Wi-Fi, but you also get the N and your other bands and channels as well. And the design, so it looks pretty nice with that metallic red finish. Certainly not something that's going to be ignored when you're in the coffee shop, that's for sure. And it really looks like an Ultrabook as well. It's got a nice design, nice smooth design to it, and it seems fairly thin. 1.5 kilos doesn't mean it's ultra light, but it's certainly no massive heavyweight. And the cons, well, that maximum screen brightness could be an issue for you. The SD card reader, only 25 megabytes per second maximum on that, which wasn't too good. No maintenance hatches on the back, so no easy access to memory and SSD upgrade. And it's not gaming suitable, but this isn't targeted at gaming. So if you're into gaming, you need to look away. Look at something with a discrete graphic card in it. Battery life, again, not really ultra mobile focused. 5 hours Wi-Fi browsing is okay for the size of battery inside, but you can get better Wi-Fi browsing times on smaller devices if you look towards more ultra mobile focused devices. And that is it. That's the pros and cons. Here's the breakdown of the score for you. We gave it at 82%. Andreas Kilian was our reporter for Notebook Check, our reviewer. Thank you, Andreas. There's his breakdown of the scores, which is also always useful. If you have something in your mind, if you're thinking, okay, I'm not too worried about the screen, you can actually map your requirements into the breakdown of our scores. This is an average 82% weighted towards sub notebook. using our version 5 of our scoring system there. Street prices, you'll be able to see some down there. 756 is the lowest street price here in Germany at the moment, which is a reasonable price for what you get in here. The 8 gigs of RAM, and that's a hybrid SSD, full HD screen, and Core i6 unthrottled, sorry, Core i5 Core 6th Gen series unthrottled experience. So a reasonable score, 82% for the Lenovo Ideapad 500S. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to thumbs up if you got something out of this video, feedback in the video below, and subscribe if you want to stay updated with the videos that are coming up, which include these devices, including a little bit of fun maybe with the S7 and the Gear VR headset soon, and maybe some gaming, and that V15 Nitro Black Edition I'm looking forward to testing. We'll see you on the next Notebook Check Tech Review.